We will be recapping yesterday's action against the Washington Commanders and my top takeaways. But before we do dive into that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's jump right in. Before we jump right into this video, I kind of want to explain the differences between this video and my instant reaction video. So making this video, I'm basically going to jot down 5 guys that have really caught my eye, whether it be a positive or negative. Today we're mostly going to focus on the positive. Compared to my instant reaction videos, that's basically raw cut of me right after the game. Like once that game final scores are in, it's zeros across the clock, I come in here, turn that camera on, and I speak whatever is on my mind. So I could tend to miss things, definitely key plays that could happen. In this video, I'm basically just going to dissect 5 players that basically stood out to me, and we're going to go from there. We're going to have fun with it, and we're going to jump in at number 5, which I keep missing him in all my instant reaction videos, and that is on me completely. I don't know how I keep doing it, and I should stop doing that, but once I'm live jittery and it's like a go on my instant reactions, it's just hard for me sometimes. So I'm not missing him here, and it won't happen again, hopefully, definitely, if he keeps playing as well as he does. It's George Karlaftis. You guys are calling him Furious George, which is actually kind of a funny, clever nickname that probably will catch on and be very amusing for the Kansas City Chiefs and Chiefs Kingdom to go forward with. Again, he played another stellar game. This sack was probably better than his last sack, which all sacks are very good, but he beat a double team, he beat a holding call, he came back and still sacked Wentz. It's that motor we have been hearing and that coaches have been preaching about in camp, and that we also saw against the Bears on full display. And that hype train is just getting crazier and crazier, and I just do not know how he fell to Kansas City, but I am so grateful, because one of the biggest question marks for the Kansas City Chiefs was that pass rush, and if it will get any better, specifically that we didn't improve it at all. Definitely early in the offseason, we're starting to see the adjustments coming while camp has arrived, but he was going to be a main focal point, and it was a good thing they drafted him. And then you bring in a Carlos Dunlap to help shore up that side too. And then you got Chris Jones looking good. Yes, he has a back injury right now. I do think if it was a regular season game, he would have played. And Frank Clark is looking more explosive than ever. And now you look like you got a legitimate pass rushing line. But the reason why I say the hype train is so high on a guy like George Karlaftis is because it kind of slowed down a little bit. Like I mentioned in my previous videos, before draft process even started in February, before the combine and all that, he was projected to be a top 10 pick, and no one was thinking he was going to slide as far as Kansas City in the 30th slot. And now we're here, and now he's showing, hey, I deserve to be that top 10 player, and KC got a huge steal. And I might be going out on a limb. It just depends on how much Spags plays him early on or throughout the season, but he might be a 10-plus sack his rookie year. And I don't know if that's saying a lot or not saying enough. I think the roof and the ceiling is high for a guy like George Karlaftis, and I'm excited to see him play every Sunday. And I'm just excited to see him in practice and just see any tape of him, because that motor is so fun to watch. And then him just getting to the quarterback, he is an exciting player that will rejuvenate this young KC defense. Speaking of young guys who have been providing a spark for this defense, and who we might be overlooking a lot, but he's made himself a name in these last 2 preseason games, is JAYLEN Watson. And I mentioned previously too, it's he was someone I thought might have been struggling to make this team as a 7th round draft pick. I think he solidified his spot, and I think he will be playing occasionally on Sundays too. He has been, like how I mentioned with Trent McDuffie, he has been on his receiver's hip and making plays. He prevented a touchdown. He had a pass breakup. He had a couple good tackles. I think he almost had an interception in this game too. He is playing very, very well. And he's also representing the 35 number very well too, because as we all know, that was Travarius Ward's number. So not high expectations, because Ward wasn't a KC great, but he was also a very good player for Kansas City, and he definitely could feel that loss if someone doesn't step up like a JAYLEN Watson or a Josh Williams or a Trent McDuffie. But this young DB room is looking very impressive, and I'm really excited to see what JAYLEN Watson and how he has been producing and maturing so quickly too. It's like with these rookies, once they grasp that playbook and they get everything down in the fundamentals, it's like just play ball. And that's what Watson looks like he's doing, and it's fun to see. It's like how I mentioned with Trent McDuffie's, like, you didn't hear his name a lot, which also too for a DB, besides the O-line, if you don't hear their name, that means something is going good. Usually when you hear their name, it's like, ah, shit, they're getting burned or something bad's happened. If you're not hearing their name, that means they're performing. But as for Jaylen Watson, you're hearing his name, but you're hearing it very well, and it's because he's performing. And as I mentioned too, when we saw the cuts of a DeAndre Baker or them moving on from a Lonnie Johnson, they're really trusting these rookies. That means they really feel like they're going to perform this year, and they're going to throw the playbook at them early and often. I'm excited to see how it all translates once the regular season is underway. Now we're going to stay in the DB room, and this is actually going to be an interesting, I don't want to say take, but like interesting development if anything. Now Chris LAMMONS, correct me if I'm saying his name wrong, because there's like 3 enunciations I can go, like LAMMONS, LAMMONS, or did I ever say LAMMONS? See, there's just so many differentials you can say his names. But you guys know who I'm talking about. He's a special team stud. He's actually one of Dave Tobe's guys on special teams. And we all know the unfortunate situation that took place in Vegas with him and Alvin Kamara, which happened to lead him being cut. And then we don't know how that's going to like resolve itself in the future, if he's going to be suspended this year. There's rumors that Kamara might not be suspended this year. So if he's not, I would assume the same for LAMMONS too. That means he will get playing action, and as we know, he's a very good special teams gunner, and that's why he's been on this team and he's excelled on this team. Now we're starting to see it on the defensive side of the ball. He had, I'll say, an impressive interception, even though the ball was thrown right towards him, but it was definitely game-changing, because at that point we knew the Kansas City Chiefs offense, the backups weren't moving the ball, so if Washington was going to push the ball on that drive, they could have potentially sealed a game-winning drive, and he had an impressive interception, almost pick 6, and he actually had a couple impressive pass breakups too, which was like, okay, like he's basically adding something to his repertoire where it'd be like, hey, I can play DB too, it's not just special teams, and that's very good to see, because you need depth, especially in the DBs, and especially when Spags throws all these different type of coverages or schemes out there too, where, hey, a guy like him might need to be called upon, specifically with injuries too. It's good to hear about Fenton's injury maybe not being as serious as what a lot of us might have thought. Initially, we all thought it was his shoulder again. It's just like, shit. His groin just tightened up on him, so it seems like he's going to be out there. But let's say Fenton gets hurt or anyone gets hurt. You can trust on these guys, these young DBs, or someone like a LAMMONS to come out there too. And, you know, basically not have a drop-off whatsoever, which is what you hope for in every scenario. I'm not saying there won't be, but that's why you build a young core too, to learn behind the vets and to not have any drop-off and just to translate on the field. I was very impressed to see him out there, just because we're all used to seeing him as a special teams guy, but to produce on the defense can solidify your spot on this 53-man roster as well. Now we're going to switch sides of the ball. We're going on the offensive side of the ball. And one of my favorite players, one of my favorite camp standouts last few years, and it's JODY FORTSON. As you heard me in my instant reaction, I really, really hope for this guy to be like a breakout stud. I think he could be one of the next great tight ends, and maybe next great Kansas City Chief tight end, maybe taking over from when Travis decides to officially retire. I'm not saying that is anytime soon, but Kansas City's got the depth where maybe they don't got to be too concerned in the future about that. If Travis decides to retire in the next 2 to 3 years, and they can pick up with a Noah Gray or a JODY FORTSON. But I just love the talent JODY FORTSON puts on the field, and he displayed it with 2 impressive touchdowns. Even though they were short, they were very impressive. But what's also very impressive too is coming off of a torn Achilles so quickly. It's like we see these NFL players do it like so quick. Well, of course, Cam Akers is the main story, doing it in less than a year and basically playing in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. And JODY FORTSON, a bigger dude too, playing a tight end position and coming back and looking good, not looking like any drop-off whatsoever. He had a little injury scare early in training camp, but he's showing he's fully healthy. He's showing he's ready to produce. And also, as I mentioned, time in and time out, everyone's so concerned on how Kansas City is going to score points just because they lost to Tyreek Hill. This Kansas City offense has shown throughout the preseason and in training camp too, but it's good to see in live game action, is they're going to distribute to the ball to whoever is open, and I think that's more deadly than just focusing on a guy like a Tyreek or a Trav, and then they get doubled, and it's like, shit, what do we do next? And I think Jody Fortson is going to be a key component in this, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has a breakout year. And my definition of a breakout year for someone like Jody Fortson is like, what if it's something crazy like around 500 yards and 8 touchdowns? That could be a really good stat line, and he could be a great producer in this offense. I'm excited to see how this offense moves forward, but in specific, I'm excited to see Jody Fortson and see how involved he will be in this offense. Now, to wrap up this list, this is one of my favorite guys on the roster, fighting for a spot, but I think he earned his potential to be on this team too. And ever since we drafted him, he's been known for his athleticism, a big man, and it's KHALEN Saunders. And man, he is just a freak athlete. He is so fast. And these last 2 games, he's been very impressive. He's been very impressive in training camp too. And also, I'm going to cut this out the way, is one, that wasn't roughing the passer when he basically just, was it Wentz? Or how, I don't know who it was, but when he just basically shoved him to the ground, that was just basically him being stronger than another guy. The ref basically screwed him up, because that was an interception too, I want to say, and it all canceled out. Maybe I'm drawing a blank, but oh well. Y'all know the play. I'm just talking about the big boy making a play and the ref screwing him over. But also too, then I think he got a sack later on, and then in last week when he chased down for a sack too, it's like, big boys shouldn't be moving that quickly, and with that, I think he deserves that athleticism alone. Like, you could tell he's got a grasp of everything in this defense, and he's learned so quickly, and that he can be a formidable defensive tackle in this league. And I think Kansas City as well. That's why I think he's grabbed that defensive tackle spot. But it's also interesting once those cut down days come, as I mentioned previously too. Tuesday, we're cutting down from 85 to 80. And then on August 30th, that's when we're down to 53. Defense tackle is going to be something to focus on. When you got Chris Jones, that's solidified. He ain't going nowhere. Derek Nottie, who we're presumably giving him that second defensive tackle spot. And then you got Danny Shelton. You got a Stallworth. You got Saunders. Someone's going to be cut from that bunch. And I think Saunders proved that ain't going to be him. I think he's going to be a good rotational player in the regular season. I think that athleticism is scary, and I think it's something Spags can use to his advantage, and I think KHALEN Saunders has proved, hey, I'm on this 53-man roster. But with that, Chiefs Kingdom, I am closing out this video. Let me know who really caught your eyes if it wasn't one of these 5 players in the comments down below, and we'll discuss it. We'll have fun about it. But before I do close this out, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, give me that big thumbs up and like this video. With that, y'all take care.